7 a.m. on Thursday, July 10th. Is that possible? 2025. I have to look up to see what day it is. Welcome to ONNJ Mornings. I'm Ken Rosato. Yeah, I'm just as sleepy as you are right now. We'll take your calls, though, at 888-658-0234, 888-658-0234. We had some rain overnight. Depending on where you were in the state, it was worse in some spots. Cloudy this morning with a stray shower or thunderstorm through the day. The further south you are, the worse it'll be. In fact, you can get some severe thunderstorms in the southern part of the state, not so much in the north, although there is a chance. And highs in the low 80s in the north, just about 80 in the south. You know what? I'm going to stop with the specifics. I know someone who can give you the real specifics. Meteorologist Mike Favetta with the first check of the Garden State forecast. Today really depends on where you are in the state, right, Mike?
It does. It certainly does. And that was the case last night with some pretty severe weather that rolled through southern New Jersey. 58-mile-per-hour wind gusts over at the Cape May Lewis Ferry Terminal there in Cape May. You can see that storm ride through last night just before 10 p.m. Actually left a lot of flash flooding just across the Delaware with plenty of streets underwater in the Philadelphia area. But those storms weakened as they crossed over Atlantic and Burlington counties last night. As far as this morning, however, we'll see a little bit of a clearing, even though it's cloudy for most of New Jersey. Live radar right now at 7:01, showing a few light showers working their way across the turnpike, south of 195 and even over toward the Atlantic City Expressway and the Parkway, south of, say, exit 105. You're doing a little rain dance this morning. Up in the northeastern corner of the state, 75 and cloudy in Newark, 72 in Hackensack, and a round 70 in Morristown. That's about 4 or 5 degrees cooler, minus 2 degrees cooler than this time yesterday, just updated in Sussex. So it still feels cool, warm rather, but not as hot as yesterday. And it's also not as ridiculously as humid as yesterday. Dew points came down a little bit. Anytime they're in the 60s, that's muggy, but not super uncomfortable and tropical like the weather we've been experiencing. Over the last few hours, seeing a few rain showers pop up. These about to cross over on Route 80, giving us a few light showers later on this morning. And then through the course of the afternoon, the winds pick up again, blowing from the south and raise temperatures through the end of the day. I think today will primarily be a pretty cloudy day. You can see it on the Futurecast through 8 or 9 a.m. Some light showers around again, another round coming in just before the lunch hour. Temperature is not really going anywhere, holding in the upper 70s, low 80s. We'll try to get some breaks of sun, but I think the clouds win out today, and that cloud cover will typically tame the severity of the afternoon storms. So, with the limited amount of sunshine in Toms River and over toward LBI, your storms probably won't be as rough as they have been the last 2 nights. The clouds stick around throughout this evening into early tomorrow morning, and then tomorrow, late in the morning into the early afternoon, the sun returns. Temperatures warm into the upper 80s, and a few storms begin to pop up again, working their way across New Jersey. But overall, I think it'll be a nice dry finish to the work week leading into the weekend. So how is that weekend looking? I think we start off a little cloudy, but ultimately turn sunny by the afternoon on Saturday. Should be rain-free, and Sunday also looking a bit partly sunny with a chance of a sprinkle, but for the most part, pretty good. Other than a few passing clouds, I think this weekend is looking dry. So the next few days featuring a generally cloudy day today with a little bit of fog, temperatures in the upper 80s. Tomorrow has more sunshine, and Saturday and Sunday, apart from a few extra clouds, looking great. We're dry as temperatures climb into the mid and upper 80s. Ken, nice way to go on with the middle of July, as I can't believe it myself. July 10th, starting off the middle of the month.
I looked up and I'm thinking it's still like the 5th or 6th. The
Yeah.
10th? My gosh. And before you know it, we're going to be talking September. I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And I get butterflies in my stomach and I get like seasonal depression. So you'll all have to endure my seasonal depression when I come in the morning and I
See,
go,
but now
"Good
with
morning,
climate
everybody."
change, we have these summers that just go right into Halloween. So, there's
I
something to
love
look
it.
forward to.
I'll take hey, you know that climate change has given us enough food to feed an additional billion people. So for what it's worth, maybe it's God's gift. We're going to all go to heaven and God's going to say, "I gave you extra food. What the hell are you whining about, all you people?" That's what's going to happen. You watch. And we're all going to
I
get
just like
yelled at for it.
the champagne that now comes from England. That's kind of cool. British
and,
champagne.
and what were champagne grapes in France are now raisins.
Yeah,
So
avocados, right.
Okay, maybe that's not a good part of it. And then having to put on SPF 200 is also another thing. All right, Mike, thank you very much, sir. We appreciate you as always. And you know that I do appreciate the science and I do believe what he's talking about. We have the only thing where I differ, and he's the scientist. He knows what he's talking about. I don't. I'm just saying my opinion, not my science. My opinion is that that climate change exists clearly. The question becomes how much are we contributing to it? We certainly do contribute something to it. There's no question. The question is how much. And that's where we differ. He knows what he's talking about because he has the charts. I don't. I'm just a whiner. So I just want to make that clear. 706. And we do have some traffic. Speaking about whining, on I-80 right now by I-95 and Teaneck. This is by exit 68 of I-80. Take a look at that. So Pam was able to pull up this great shot. This is by Teaneck Road. This is the exit. So a lot of people are getting off the exit. See the right lane? They're getting off the exit, I think, or maybe not. That's the entrance. Maybe that's a big mistake because what's happening is there is an overturned tractor trailer on I-80 local lanes eastbound, east of exit 68. So let's see what that says there. That's north, south. Um, that says 80 at Teaneck Road. I don't know if that's an entry or an exit. We'll try to do a little more investigating and figure out. Bottom line is, I'm sure that's part of the reason why we have that traffic right there. And there are Pam tells us there are flashing lights as they pull out. Perfect. Thank you. Maybe they're watching us. Um, yeah, so that I think is connected to this. So once again, we have an overturned tractor trailer, I-80 local lanes eastbound, east of exit 68, which is the merge with the turnpike in Teaneck. The left shoulder is closed through there, and that could very well be what's causing that right there. Thank you, Pam, for finding that camera. Pam is amazing. A crash investigation on Route 93, both directions, north of Central Boulevard and Palisades Park. All lanes are closed there. Roving repairs, 206 southbound from Addison Lake Park entrance. They had this yesterday too. And this goes all the way to Chemung Township. One right lane is closed, and roving repairs Route 130, both directions from Hollywood Avenue in Carneys Point Township to 295 in Logan Township. All lanes are closed and everyone's being detoured. We apparently have some delays on the upper level of the GWB, so let's take a look at that, the 8095 approach to the GWB. The upper level's on the right, lower's on the left. It looks to me like about the same. I don't know. Maybe the upper is a little worse than the lower on the right side. So it's advising us to tell you right now to take the lower level, which is the left side. See that one car is moving. But you can see, I think what's happening is some of those trucks go on the approach and then switch over to the upper level. So the ones toward the middle, the blue truck there, the blue front, I think they're trying to get to the upper level when they pass that overpass. And that's why that lane is a little heavy. And the lower level, which is where the cars are flying, that's moving. So take that if you can. Stay to the right on the lower level. You'll get in better. We're told it's only about 20 minutes at the Lincoln, 15 at the Holland. 708, 6 Secret Service agents have been suspended without pay or benefits following that gunman's attempt to take President Trump's life at a Pennsylvania rally. It was a year ago, coming up on a year already. The agency's deputy director announced yesterday that they aren't going to fire their way out of this, but said they are, quote, laser focused on fixing the root cause of the problem. The agent's penalty ranged from 10 to 42 days of unpaid leave, adding that they are placed in restrictive roles with less responsibility once they get back on the job. They'll probably get some remedial training and whatnot. As the president said, they're good people. They just didn't act their best at that moment. Clearly, they have their best intentions, but that's got to be better than that when you're defending the president. The Secret Service faced heavy criticism following the security failure, which allowed gunman Thomas Crooks to open fire toward the rally stage in Butler, PA, last July 13th. So we're coming 3 days away for the anniversary, and you'll recall that Crooks was on a rooftop a couple of roofs away. Nobody did a thing. There was one person, one local police sniper who saw him on the rooftop and let the Secret Service folks know, hey, there's a guy on a rooftop over there. Don't you want to know about that? Ooh. And nothing got done until that rooftop guy, Crooks, shot the president. So a lot of people have to answer to that right now. It is 7:09. A 40-year-old student at Beth Midrash Gavoha in Lakewood, Binyamin Kubani, was released Monday after being charged with second-degree child luring for allegedly approaching a 15-year-old boy on July 3rd. The yeshiva, the world's largest outside of Israel, called the charges a travesty, claiming Kubani, a pious family man, was misunderstood due to his limited English. Supporters rallied on Sunday while police urged patience. They have to finish their investigation, so don't rush to judgment on either side. 7:10, an ICE raid at Alba Wine and Spirits Warehouse in Edison sparked outrage after agents detained at least 15 workers Tuesday morning. Advocates from New Labor claim ICE entered without a warrant, zip-tying workers and checking immigration status. Remember, ICE doesn't need a warrant if they have due cause, just like any police agency. So if they witnessed somebody go into work there, they don't need a warrant. If they were tipped off by somebody, they don't need a warrant. They could go in and they could say, this is ICE, everybody get on the floor. They do not need a search warrant. But the left loves to say, oh, you don't have a search warrant, you can't come in here, as if they're Boy Scouts. They are duly appointed federal officers, and they can be like any local officer. If they have reason, they can go in without a warrant. Detainees were taken to facilities like Core Civic in Elizabeth and Delaney Hall, we all know about, in Newark. Workers described a tense scene with some alleging excessive force. If you resist, they're going to do excessive force. If you just put your hands behind your back, get on the floor like they say, there won't be excessive force. Edison officials, citing New Jersey's sanctuary state status, did not participate. Nice. However, if there was a bank robbery, local officials would participate, even though that's a federal crime. And if there was a kidnapping, local officials would participate, even though that's a federal crime. But this federal crime they disagree with, so they decide not to participate. Liberals. A bombshell report in Irvington reveals the township misspent $632,000 in opioid settlement funds on two so-called opioid awareness concerts in 2023 and 2024. They were supposed to use that money to instruct students and things, and they decided, let's throw a concert. The New Jersey office of the state comptroller says the events cost $350,000 and $280,000 and lacked substance, nice choice of words, with promotional materials hyping artists and Mayor Tony Voss, not addiction resources. So there might have been a little blurb at the bottom of the ticket saying this is for opioid, whatever. That does not count. The whole point of that money was to teach kids not to take opioid substances because you could die. And they didn't do that apparently there. So no Narcan was distributed in 2023, and only 50 donated kits out of the thousands of people there. Only 50 were provided in 2024. The report also alleges procurement violations, including six-figure contracts to businesses tied to, guess what, a township employee. How did that happen? With Essex County reporting 459 overdose deaths in 2023. Acting Comptroller Kevin Walsh calls the spending a waste of funds meant to save lives. Irvington officials deny the claims. They're suing to block the report. Too late. We got it out. There you go. Next time, don't squander money that's meant to save people's lives. But this is why people do not trust government. And this is why when you hear the state wanting to up your taxes by $100 billion, you should be very suspicious, because other states like Florida that are bigger can do everything New Jersey does better for a third the money, but somehow New Jersey can't make it work, and they keep upping the price and charge mansion taxes and things like that. 7:13, as New Jersey's grid operator, PJM Interconnection, kicks off a new electricity auction. Representative Josh Gottheimer and 9 House members are demanding transparency to prevent another surge in utility bills. Last year's auction spiked electricity capacity prices by 800%, driving up costs for New Jersey residents. Do you think it had anything to do with the liberals in Trenton forcefully shutting down 6 power plants in the state to try to push us over to green energy even before the new green energy plants were built? The lawmakers' letter to PJM seeks assurances on managing rising demand from data centers and ensuring sufficient capacity to avoid further rate hikes. We wouldn't have had any rate hikes, you morons, if you didn't shut down by force the power plants. But you did it to push this green energy debacle so that your friends in charge of the green energy can put money in their pockets. Let's just say what it is. 7:14, Governor Murphy signed a law to study how AI-powered data centers are driving up energy costs in connection with that last story. The Board of Public Utilities will analyze the impact on homeowners over the next 20 years and explore taxing data centers to ease the burden. Well, what do you think's going to happen, you moron governor? You tax the centers are going to pass on the cost to who? Us. To offset the hikes, the BPU approved a $60 billion reduction for July and August, with additional relief of $100 and $150 for all, or $100 for all, rather, and $150 for lower income families this year. Translation: anyone who is middle class is going to have to pay an additional tax to help people lower class pay for their electricity. So it's yet more tax for the working class. That's what Democrats do. Rutgers University's Board of Governors approved a $5.9 billion budget, hiking in-state tuition by 5% to nearly $15,000 for New Brunswick grads, with mandatory fees up 5%, housing up 6%. Out-of-state students face a 6% increase, reaching $36,000. The hikes, exceeding the 2.4% inflation rate, keep Rutgers among the nation's priciest for in-state tuition. President William Tate IV cited potential federal funding cuts as a factor. Bullshit. It has nothing to do with that. Tate's a liberal. He's overpaid. He's like being paid almost $1 million with bonuses, or over $1 million. And the first thing he does is he blames the feds. Bullshit. It's not the feds. There's plenty of money. Again, great colleges like University of Miami and whatnot, and Florida State, very efficient down in Florida, and there is no increase in their tuition. Gee, what is that about? It's about overpaying union member teachers and professors who are at that university. And, for a liberal university that's well endowed, there's plenty of money in the bank. You do not have to hike costs. It's all about keeping the bottom line looking good on paper. And you're the new incoming president. You want to keep it looking good and justify your $1.5 million salary. It's all scam, folks. Don't accept it. You don't have to. You live in New Jersey. You do not have to accept it. I think everybody's in a fog here if they don't realize that other states don't deal with this. It's only the scam that is New Jersey. 7:17, a man in Medford woke up to a young buck crashing through his living room window. Thinking fast, he grabbed the deer by its horns, quite literally, let it out the back door. You come here. The deer fled to a nearby wooded area, seemingly unharmed. Wildlife experts say such incidents are actually common, as deer may mistake windows for escape routes, advising to guide them out or call local wildlife control. Or just do what he did. No, don't do what he did. Don't grab him by the horns. You can get hurt. Fairfield police monitoring a big bear spotted near Henning Drive. Police are working in coordination with the New Jersey Department of Fish and Game. Take a look at that. That is unbelievable. The big bear spotted in the neighborhood. I want to thank one of our viewers for that one. There's no immediate threat, but residents are urged not to approach the bear, keep pets inside, maintain a safe distance at least 100 yards. If encountered, stay calm, speak firmly, appear bigger than the bear. So stand up and do, literally, you'll feel intimidated, but go, "Argh." That scares them, believe it or not. I know that looked foolish, but that does do it. Appear larger and back away very slowly. Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva said yesterday that his country will respond with reciprocity to President Trump's newly announced 50% tariff rate on his country's exports, citing recently adopted Brazilian law that authorizes the government to take proportional countermeasures. Trump announced yesterday the U.S. would impose the tariff on imports from Brazil starting August 1st, partly in retaliation for the ongoing prosecution of the country's former president, Jair Bolsonaro, who is a Trump supporter, by the way, and acts very much like Trump, and the country was doing very well under him. Trump said in a letter that the new tariff, a massive jump from the 10% rate the U.S. had imposed on imports from Brazil in early April, is also a response to the very unfair trade relationship between the two countries. Brazil's the largest country in South America. The letter to Da Silva followed nearly 24 others that Trump had recently sent to other world leaders, dictating steep new tariff rates on the goods they sell to the U.S. And CIA Director John Ratcliffe has made a criminal referral of former CIA Director, arch-leftist John Brennan, total political hack, to the FBI, accusing him of lying to Congress. The Bureau is also scrutinizing former FBI Director James Comey, you see on the right, for his role in the now debunked Russia investigation. They kept pushing this Russia connection between President Trump and Russia, and it was all phony. And now we find out they knew it was phony, but kept pushing it and then lied to Congress about it. So now there's a criminal referral. So these two men that you see on that screen, including the grumpy face in the middle, Brennan, who is a leftist hack, may end up in jail. before it's all over. The problem is they're going to be tried in the very liberal DC federal district, where they would likely end up with a leftist judge who's going to probably tip the case in favor of the defendants. The Russiagate lie kneecapped President Trump for most of his first term, forcing many Republicans in Congress to kind of distance themselves from him, and that prevented the president from getting much of his agenda passed. 7:20 right now, our temperature 67 degrees, much cooler than a day ago. When we come back, New Jersey Globe editor David Wildstein will have the latest on New Jersey's political scene with the Inside Edge. We're coming right back. Welcome back to ONNJ Jersey Mornings for your Thursday. I'm Ken Rosato at 7:21. Straight to meteorologist Mike Favetta. A look at the Garden State forecast. Worse in the southern part of the state today, right, Mike?
Another round of showers, yeah, but I think everybody just sees clouds for the most part today. The possibility of some showers, especially the strength of them, is limited by the lack of sunshine today. It's going to be pretty gray and cloudy across New Jersey. And this is something we were mentioning yesterday, how today, pretty much the grayest and wettest day of the week, with some on and off showers all throughout the afternoon, as temperatures are a solid 10 degrees cooler than they have been, only in the low 80s from New Brunswick and Princeton, maybe a break of sun up there over toward Clinton and Flemington. As far as the heat index, or how it feels going into this afternoon, we're starting off feeling not terribly hot. And the reason for that is that cooler air that moved in last night, with almost 2 inches of rain down toward Ship Bottom, an inch and a half toward Camden. So places in southern New Jersey, you can clearly see it on the map. The brighter shades of green and yellow got hit really hard with some heavy rains. Northern sections of the state, not even a quarter of an inch in Morristown. So it really depends on your location. But it's the southern half of New Jersey that got hit with some pretty big showers over the last few days with those big storms. Today, a gentle light shower, but even going into the next few days, it's relatively dry. Not expecting a whole lot. Other than the isolated downpour with the passing thunderstorm. The clouds and radar showing the storms from last night. Today, we're kind of socked in with the clouds. Maybe tap into some afternoon clearing north and west, but beyond that, it takes a while for the rest of that front to push on through. So as a result of the lower UV today, UV is only at a 7, which is considered high there on the board, not very high like we've been used to. And with the light rains that return later on today, you can see some showers working their way in through the northwestern corner of New Jersey here, beginning to develop. And with that, I think we'll see a light sprinkle work its way through, Sussex County, Route 23, and out there towards Route 94. And even along Route 10 and 46 in the next few hours. The dew point, or the temperature where the air is saturated, started off very muggy this week, but it actually drops going into tomorrow. So dew points in the upper 60s is humid, but not paltry or like sultry levels of humidity, which is some good news. And I should say sultry levels of humidity. Even going into Saturday and Sunday, we'll start to see those numbers rise a little bit, but still not become too uncomfortable by the end of the weekend. So it'll feel a little bit better around here, especially with highs that'll feel more like July should, not the oppressive heat that we've been so accustomed to. With the showers on tap for today, the Futurecast again showing some more of those widespread showers across southern New Jersey. Maybe a little pop-up cell there, right around Route 78 and 24 there towards Summit and just south of Livingston going into the end of the day. By tomorrow, however, look at the clearing that occurs. Maybe some clouds at the coast with a little bit of a marine layer, but lots of sun developing through the afternoon, and that will feel very pleasant with a little bit of a wind off of the water. Saturday starts off a little cloudy, but quickly clears out, and it'll be a beautiful finish to the day with the storm staying north and west. Sunday looks just as nice. So with the chance of a rain shower on Monday, I think Tuesday and Wednesday are both very dry. The long-range futurecast going into next week shows the clear sky right through the end of the work week. So a lovely week coming up. And there's our next front about a week from now arriving from the north and west. So overall, weekend looking pretty decent. Weekend forecast starts off warm, stays hot. Temperatures in the mid 80s by Sunday. Not terribly hot, but with a mix of clouds and sun, Ken, it looks really pretty this weekend. Yet again, certainly shouldn't dissuade many people from heading out toward the beaches or the weekend barbecues. Got some birthday parties this weekend, what have you. Lots of great weather to enjoy around New Jersey.
Back in the 80s, I had a whole outfit made of dissuade, but that's a whole other story for a different day. Thank you very That's a dad
What,
joke, and I'm not even a
what
dad.
color were the shoes, though? I could imagine.
Uh, Black patent leather, of course. I mean, is there another color? I didn't even know. Anyway, unless they're blue, that's Elvis, but that's another story. He was from Tennessee, that's why. All right, so actually, he was from Tupelo, Mississippi. What am I talking about? I should know that. He moved to Tennessee, but he was from Tupelo, Mississippi. That's Elvis. All right, somebody would have written in otherwise. The viewer would have written in.
Mm.
Thank you very much, sir. We will check back with you shortly. 7:25 right now. We do have a little bit of traffic to talk about. A crash investigation, Route 93, both directions by Central Boulevard, Palisades Park. All lanes are closed there. And we have some slowdowns at the Hudson River crossings, a mess now. Let's take a look at the GWB. This is the approach 8095. We're now told that there is a disabled vehicle on the GWB upper level eastbound, and that's causing what you see right now. The upper level on the right, lower level on the left. Take the lower level, although both are now slow. It's about 35 to 40 minutes over, about 20 minutes at the Lincoln and 15 at the Holland. Democrats are pouring $20 million into New Jersey's governor's race with the super PAC Greater Garden State, launching a major ad blitz on TV and digital platforms to back Representative Mikey Sherrill. The spending surpasses all ad buys from the 2021 election. Sherrill
Thank you.
faces
My
Republican
name is
Jack
Mikey
Ciattarelli,
Sherrill.
a
I've served this
Trump-endorsed former
country my
legislator,
entire life.
in a competitive
I
race
first served
expected
to
to
the
draw millions
conservation when I
more
was a
before
teenager
November
with the Naval
as both
Academy.
parties vie
I
for
served for
control in
almost
this
10
key
years as a
battleground state.
helicopter pilot in a
It's now
role
time for
amongst the
Politics from
Auxiliary.
Trenton, explained like no one else can do it. Here's New Jersey Globe editor David Wildstein with the Inside Edge.
Yesterday morning came with devastating news for the New Jersey political community. Kabir Moss had passed away at the way too young age of 37. Uh, one of the true privileges of my job is that I get to work with so many talented political operatives, people who bring passion and intelligence and character to the table every day. And New Jersey draws talent from all across the country, and Kabir Moss was one of those exceptional people. He came to us from California by way of a remarkable path, a college basketball player in Zimbabwe and then in Boston, a Peace Corps volunteer for 3.5 years in Morocco, where he spent his time mentoring kids and supporting infrastructure projects for Engineers Without Borders. And along the way, he learned to speak Moroccan Arabic. In 2018, Kabir landed in Monmouth County. He was the upbeat, determined campaign manager for a slate of Democratic freeholder candidates. Then he went to the New Jersey Senate as part of the majority office's communication shop. And then he opened his own public relations and political consulting firm. Most recently, he was the communications director for Raz Baraka's race for governor. Over 8 campaign cycles in New Jersey, a political arena not known for being easy. Kabir Moss earned something rare. It was universal respect. And he was widely liked, and more important, he was genuinely admired. Uh, Kabir was the real deal. He had a deep kindness to him. He was empathetic and affable and endlessly patient. He brought humor to hard moments. He brought calm to chaos and insight to every challenge. He was smart and hardworking, a consummate professional, cautious when he needed to be, fearless when it counted. He didn't pretend to know everything. He was always eager to learn. And there was a gentle innocence to Kabir. Part of that, made his authenticity shine. He could work a tough campaign without ever being cruel. He could do it without tearing other people down. And perhaps the most defining part of Kabir Moss was his moral clarity. He had an extraordinary sense of fairness, a firm grasp of right or wrong. He had zero tolerance for injustice, and he stood by his convictions while still accepting other views that disagreed with him. In Jersey politics, I think everyone sort of finds their lane, and Kabir's lane was idealism. He came into this work not for the adrenaline or for the power, but because he truly believed that he could make the world better. He believed that that was possible, and there's no words that can ease the pain for his family, his friends, his acquaintances, but for all of us who knew him, even just briefly, we were better for it. May his memory be a blessing.
Indeed, 7:31 in 2016, a Trump supporter posted on what was then Twitter that supporters of Hillary Clinton could vote for her by text message or social media post. It was a joke, right? Hillary supporters didn't think so. They likely never even saw it until it got reported in the media. Nonetheless, in spite of constitutional freedom of speech, Douglas Mackey was charged by the Biden administration's Justice Department with conspiracy to influence the election. There he is on the screen. Imagine he just posted a joke post. It's a joke. In fact, Rush Limbaugh did the same thing years ago, saying, for Republicans, you could vote on whatever the date was, November 7th, and Democrats, you go and vote on November 8th. That was a joke. But the Democrats have no sense of humor. And so they charged him with conspiracy to influence the election, and it was done in an ultra-leftist communist court in Brooklyn that found him guilty. And that guy had to go to 7 months of federal prison over a joke tweet. Talk about Gestapo. That's frickin' Gestapo, you people on the left. A man spent 7 months of his life in jail for a tweet that was a joke. Can you imagine if the Justice Department poured through every tweet you ever sent and then decided to charge you with things you said as a joke 7 years ago? Well, finally, the Second U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals in Manhattan, a very liberal court itself, they decided that ultra left-wing lower court in Brooklyn had to acquit him, that there was no evidence to put that guy in jail. So expect a lawsuit now. The Second Circuit Court of Appeals is considered a liberal court, and that's crazy. So if they scolded the Brooklyn court, that tells you how far left the Brooklyn court has gone. The left is unfrickin' hinged, and their judges are nothing more than activist hacks and should be impeached. The idea of justice is blind is lost on them. It is currently 72 degrees, 7:33. We will be back here on New Jersey Mornings. Don't go away.
Hi, I'm Jeanette Hoffman, host of Energy Matters. Join me every night at 6 p.m. where we're discussing energy affordability, challenges, and solutions with stakeholders and elected officials. Join me weekdays at 6 p.m. on Energy Matters on ONNJ.
A very good morning to you. It is 67 degrees reported in Trenton right now. It is 74 degrees in the northern part of the state. That's a big disparity. Let's find out about that. 7:33 is our time. Welcome back to On New Jersey Mornings. I'm Ken Rosato. Cloudy with a stray shower or thunderstorm today. The storms are more likely in the southern part of the state where they could be even very strong. Highs in the low 80s. Meteorologist Mike Favetta with a detailed Garden State forecast. Mike, that's a big stray in a big range there of temperature. 67 in Trenton, 74 here. Is it that maybe we got a peak of sunshine by me?
Well, there's some clearing happening, yes. There's also quite a bit of cloud cover across southern New Jersey from those lingering showers that came through last
Ah,
night. Some of the thunderstorms even produced tornado warnings down in southern Ocean County late last night. So those storms had some punch to them, and with it, I think we'll see the last of the severe weathers for the rest of this week because it is cloudy and cooler for the remainder of the day, not as hot, still warm in the mid 80s with a passing shower. The sunshine returns tomorrow. We could get a few breaks of sun today, north and west, but it's really tomorrow morning that we'll enjoy the clear sky. And then the weekend looks fantastic. Lots of clear weather to enjoy. So here's a look of the satellite picture. Already see a lot of the clouds hovering across central and southern New Jersey. Maybe a break of sun there as some showers now developing across Morris County, working their way eastward. But I still think the rain is going to be a big player in today's forecast. Not heavy or torrential or anything severe, but some passing showers that'll take over from Ocean City toward Avalon and even up by Atlantic City. 86 as your high. Head a little west and it's not as hot, only the low 80s for a change. The forecast heat index for the rest of this week doesn't see our highs make it to heat advisory criteria at all in the next few days. So while it may briefly get to 95 or 96 in Mount Holly and Trenton, it's pretty much in the low 90s everywhere across the state, even going into Saturday and even through Sunday. So that'll feel quite nice and a nice change. At least you get a break from the heat going into the start of next week. So great beach weather ahead, especially as we head into this afternoon with our highs climbing into the low 90s and upper 80s, so not as hot. Again, the clouds and radar picture showing a break of sun in southern New Jersey, some clouds working their way with another shower through northern New Jersey, but the script flips later on today. Look at the wide range in water temperatures. Atlantic City, 65 degrees with those southerly winds pushing off a lot of that water, that warm water layer, and then Sandy Hook getting all the way to 80 degrees up in the northern part of the state. So quite impressive to see just how, depending on your beach, those are live water temperatures, and you can see how much of a difference they are. On the statewide average, 74 degrees. There's a moderate risk of rip currents today due to the lesser winds, but still important to swim in the lifeguarded zones. And then going into this afternoon, I think we'll see a few passing showers. So it's not the best beach day, but at least there's no danger of any thunder and lightning. Shouldn't have that develop today. Tomorrow, more sunshine through the afternoon, looking much better later on in the day. And Saturday and Sunday, really pleasant. I think you'll see those beaches filled by the end of the day Saturday. Certainly by Sunday looks good. And then our next front comes through Monday afternoon. That's our next chance for some steady wet weather. The 7-day forecast has plenty of sunshine around again tomorrow. Today's a pretty gray day, but we warm back up into the upper 70s. Saturday and Sunday, both looking fantastic statewide. We should be relatively rain free. Our next opportunity for some showers and storms is on Monday, and then we warm it back into the low 90s on Tuesday and Wednesday. Probably another few days of pretty hot weather that takes over next week. Shore points, plenty of sun on your Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, also looking great, and it's a winner right through next week. Again, Monday might see some showers throughout the afternoon with some clouds, but beyond that, Tuesday and Wednesday, very pleasant. So despite a day here, a day there of a little bit of wet weather, the weekend looks clear, and we're back to the heat come Tuesday, Wednesday of next weekend.
you caught me literally as we came back. I sneezed. Oh, there we go. Pam will tell you, the director, I was like hitting my nose not to sneeze right before, and you caught me right on camera. Perfect. Couldn't have timed that better. Thank you, Mike. Whoopsie. It happens. We're human beings and it's live. Now you know. All right, Mike, we will check back with you, sir. It is, again, we have this big range of temperatures, 67 in Trenton, 73 where we are in northern New Jersey. And again, Mike explained why the heavy showers and thunderstorms that we had overnight in the south, less rain, but still had it in the north. So that could very well be the case. We do have a lot of traffic now, and I think that's the damp roadways causing it. Take a look at this on the New Jersey Turnpike mile marker 12108. Southbound 95 Express. So this is when you just come over the GW Bridge into New Jersey, heading on 95. It's 80-95 approach as you go west before you get to the interchange, the separation with I-80. Look at that mess of traffic. That's really heavy, especially those lanes on the left, barely moving at all. So that's going to give you a lot of extra delay, probably a 30-minute delay making your way into New Jersey from Manhattan. Don't know why it's that heavy. Could be a broken down vehicle or something. We'll look into it. We have a crash investigation on Route 93, both directions, north of Central Boulevard in Palisades Park, with all lanes closed there. And let's take a look at the opposite side of what you were just looking at a moment ago. This is the 8095 approach eastbound going toward the GWB. See, before, when you see those trucks on the upper part of the screen, that's the direction we were looking at about half a mile away a moment ago. So all those cars going opposite the cars coming towards you, those cars and trucks are about to hit the traffic we just showed you a second ago. They're about a mile away. Coming towards you, we now have a disabled vehicle on the GWB upper level. So that's the right lanes. Those, see the big white tractor trailers there on the right? Those folks are going to the upper level, and that's where we have a disabled vehicle causing delay. So you can see the upper level's not moving. Lower level moving slowly. That's your better bet, but it's about a 35-minute crossover time nonetheless. It's only 20 minutes at the Lincoln and 15 at the Holland. 7:40, President Trump will attend the FIFA Club World Cup final at MetLife Stadium this Sunday. He confirmed at a cabinet meeting. Trump leads a White House task force preparing for the 2026 FIFA World Cup with Vice President J.D. Vance and Andrew Giuliani, son of former New York City Mayor Rudy Giuliani, in key roles. The U.S. will host most of the 2026 tournament, including the final. It's going to be there. It's going to be huge, so check it out. The quarterfinals, in the meantime, are being held right now, but the big show will happen next year again, the World Cup Finals 2026. On New Jersey's Laura Jones spoke with Governor Phil Murphy about what he is calling a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity.
Governor, MetLife Stadium, it is going to be one of the biggest stages in the world in 2026. So can you talk about what hosting the World Cup means for New Jersey, both economically and culturally?
It's a big deal, Laura. This is about as big as it gets in sports, or frankly, period. Our guess is that, by the way, we're co-hosts with New York City, and they've been great partners. Our guess is 1 to 2 million visitors into the region, $3 to $4 billion of economic impact, 14,000 permanent jobs created, 8 matches in MetLife Stadium, including what will be the most watched event in human history, the World Cup final on July 19th, 2026. And the tournament will have in total 104 matches, which means there'll be 96 that aren't in MetLife. And that's why the Fan Fests, our big one will be at Liberty State Park, will be so important. That'll have a capacity of 45,000, 22 big screens, and the backdrop will be Ellis Island, Statue of Liberty, the Manhattan skyline. It doesn't get any better than all of the above.
Well, so it makes sense why you've called this a once-in-a-generation opportunity. So as you get ready, what should residents and local businesses expect as the state gets ready for something this big?
Yeah, they're getting a taste of it right now because we're hosting 9 matches in the first ever FIFA Global Club World Cup. We've already had 5 really successful first rounds. We have a quarterfinal on Saturday, 2 semis next Tuesday and Wednesday, and the final on July 13th, Sunday. So we're getting a taste of that. Incredible fan enthusiasm, a real emphasis on safety and security, an emphasis on transportation that is good, a good experience, the in-stadium experience, the impact on small businesses, hotels, restaurants. We're seeing a taste of it right now in terms of what it will be like next year. And so far, so good. This tournament has been a home run success, as next year's will be as well.
Now, one of the other articles I read on this, you said, the measures of successes, there are 3 things: safety, the experience of getting to and from the stadium, and also the fan experience inside. So how do you feel New Jersey is on track for that?
I'm knocking on wood. So far, so good. The first 5 matches have been phenomenal. We've averaged 35 to 40,000 fans. If you listen to the fans, you would think that there were 400,000 in the stadium, I have to say. But you'll see now from the quarterfinal on, we'll be more in the 70 to 75,000 fans for each one of the remaining 4. So we're laser focused on those 3 dimensions: safety, transportation, in-stadium fan experience. I'm incredibly optimistic that those all 3 will continue to be in great shape.
And, when you talk about legacy, it's always a big question when you're hosting a global event. So, are there certain long-term benefits or projects that you hope the World Cup leaves behind in New Jersey, whether it's a youth program, facility upgrades, that will really last beyond that final whistle?
Yeah, it's a great question. And frankly, it hits, and I think the biggest reason you want to be playing a big role in these tournaments, whether it's this year's or certainly next year's, and that is the legacy. The last time the U.S. hosted the World Cup, 1994, that was the birth of Major League Soccer. And look at how successful that is today. But I think, Laura, it is exactly as you suggested. The little boy or girl who never considered kicking a ball actually doing so. The field that we're able to build in an underserved community that didn't have one before. Maybe there are professional, benefits that come out of this. But the legacy, what we'll measure 10, 20, 30 years from now, I think, frankly, that's the even bigger story, and nowhere more so than New Jersey and New York City, which is a hotbed of soccer passion and legacy from the very beginning of this sport. I think it'll be transformational.
Yeah, you yourself, you're a big soccer fan. I read that you played when you were younger.
Not well, but I did.
Well, just one final note on a more personal note. What are you most excited to showcase to that global stage that we're going to have that's going to be watching New Jersey?
I mean, Jersey's character, attitude, our people, our diversity, our passion. And I might add, alongside our brothers and sisters in New York City, the Trans-Hudson partnership is a real one, and it's working really well. But showing off New Jersey to the world, all 9.5 million members of our Jersey family with a huge point of pride. That opportunity just doesn't come along, particularly to host the final this year, as well as, of course, the World Cup final next year. That's a once in, not even a generational, that's a once in a forever experience. And we're gonna be proud to show off the great state of New Jersey.
New Jersey's right at the epicenter. Governor Phil Murphy, thank you for taking the time to talk to us.
Great to see you, Laura. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
The time now 7:46. It is 73 degrees, cloudy with a stray shower or thunderstorm today. The storms are more likely in the southern part of the state, where they could be even heavier than in the northern part. Could be pretty strong, in fact. Highs in the low 80s. Meteorologist Mike Favetta returns in a moment with a full Garden State forecast, and we'll take your calls at 888-658-0234. You're watching ONNJ Jersey Mornings. Don't go away. Welcome back to ONNJ Jersey Mornings. I'm Ken Rosato, 747. We're taking calls at 888-658-0234. Clouds, a stray shower or thunderstorm today. The storm's more likely in the southern part of the state, where they could be very strong. In fact, highs in the low 80s throughout the state. A little cooler to the south, warmer to the north. Right to meteorologist Mike Favetta with the Garden State forecast. Good morning, Mike.
Hey, good morning, Ken. Ken, remember we were talking about airport delays and how Newark has the repaved runway, the new terminals, great experience to fly in and out. And I said, well, weather, that could always kind of throw a wrench in your plans. Nothing you can do about it. You know what else? Passenger behavior. Because my sister lives in Hawaii. She comes to visit the family, travels through Newark Airport, usually 10 to 12 hours door to door, right? Can make it no problem, connect in LA. The passengers. The poor passengers were so frustrated on this flight that they make it to the runway, somebody has an episode, they go back to the gate. They make it to the runway again, take two, go back to the gate. 45 hours to get back to Hawaii after all of the delays.
Well, for real? 45 hours?
2 days. 2 days.
2.5 days? 2 days? That's insanity.
It's ridiculous. All because of behavior of people. People just can't.
That's ridiculous. That's why people need to be arrested. People need to be arrested, and it can't be a slap. No, I'm not kidding. You know that there are federal laws that if you violate those federal laws, this is no joke. How many times have we heard people get on a plane? You heard people say, all right, so screw you, to have the cops take me off. Right. All right, big mouth. Now you've just delayed the whole plane. We got to deplane, and then we got to arrest you. just because you want to be a big shot because you had too many cocktails.
Uh-huh.
They should outlaw cocktails on the plane. That's another thing, but that's
Well,
only my opinion. Good morning, Mike.
Eric, the travel guy, had some great points yesterday about giving the little, bags of candy from the Hudson News. I mean, I thought maybe it is a good idea. So listen to the professionals, I guess, in this case.
They gave me the equivalent on Spirit's equivalent to first class. All I did was say, "Hey, good morning. How was the flight up?" All of a sudden, I got bumped from seat 25C to seat 2A. I mean, I'll
Nice.
take it. It was great, and I didn't ask for it. They said, "Hey, Mr. Rosato, come here," and I don't know if they do have to balance the seats on the plane too, but I thought that, wow, I'll take it. Thank you very much.
Yep.
Just
Well,
be nice.
today is one of those days. How about this professional giving you some weather, some advice today? It's going to be a little gray, but you probably won't need the umbrella because the clouds will look ominous at times. Maybe just give you a gentle shower that lasts a few hours, minutes, really. Going into the afternoon, the temperature is only warm into the low 80s, so we'll start to see breaks in the sun breaks in the clouds throughout the afternoon with the sun as temperatures climb into the mid 80s there from Newton and Hackettstown, only 84 degrees. Notice you see the sun icons appear toward the western portion of the state. Well, that's what the front that ultimately pushes through. But it does so late in the day that we probably don't improve our air quality until it's too late. Air quality is let me try that again. Unhealthy for sensitive groups going into the afternoon through Newark and places like Hackensack. Anytime the number is above 100, it gets to that level. And the reason for that is there's not much air movement today. The storms will be stagnant, those that develop. So if you see a pop-up storm, probably sits over one location over several hours over the course of the afternoon, and that could lead to some issues. 107 again, likely see that number drop into the afternoon, but it gets better tomorrow with a refreshing breeze off of the water. Through the middle of the month, heading to, say, places in the Midwest, expect cooler than average conditions, but here in the Northeast, including New Jersey, slightly above average temperatures. And even with July's temperature through the end of, say, July 20th, could see slightly higher than average rainfall as well. The forecast for the next 7 days, featuring lots of sun beginning tomorrow. Today is a pretty gray day, not a washout, but there'll be times of spotty showers. We warm back into the upper 80s tomorrow. Saturday and Sunday is absolutely beautiful. Mix of clouds and sun, gorgeous weather around. Next chance of some rain is on Monday. That's with a front that moves through, but that also begins a warm period that'll bring our temperatures back into the low 90s come Tuesday and Wednesday. The shore points, plenty of sun tomorrow, Saturday and Sunday, beautiful. And then by Monday and Tuesday, there's our chance of some rain, but clearing by Tuesday and Wednesday. So lots of sun to enjoy on the 7-day. Great weather all around. You can just stay here in New Jersey to enjoy a very sunny and beach weekend for all.
And we have a beautiful state with beautiful beaches. We
Mhm.
should take advantage of it, in such a short season. I always say in the summertime, take advantage of New Jersey all the way. And then in the fall, and I hear Rocco. In the,
Clearly, I don't know what is going on over today, but somebody wants to go to the beach. That must be it.
I love it. That's great. Rocco's like, "Hey, I'm hungry over here. What are you doing?" But of course, I'm just assigning him that accent. No one in your house talks like that, but I'm assigning him that accent. Hope you don't mind. But nonetheless, I always say in the summertime, it's such a short season. New Jersey's so beautiful. Enjoy New Jersey in the summer. And then in the fall, when it gets cold here, if you don't want to do fall things and you want the hot weather, then you come down to Florida. But in the
Exactly.
meantime, we have a beautiful, beautiful state. All right, Mike, thank you very much, sir. It is 67 in Trenton and 73 in northern New Jersey. Again, as Mike mentioned earlier, it's the heavy rains. We had rain through much of the state, but in the south, it was really heavy, and that kind of cooled things down a little more. So it's starting out a little cooler in the south. It is 7:53, and in terms of traffic, take a look at this. This is I-78 by Vauxhall Road, a little volume there. Not so bad. That's a pretty shot, actually, I-78. Not that far from there. We do have flooding to report. It's further away from there. It's actually way out by exit 20, Route 639 and Lebanon Township. All lanes are open, but there's flooding through that area. People are kind of avoiding the ponding by getting toward the middle, so just beware of that. Roving repairs Route 206 southbound from south of Atzian Lake Park entrance in Hamilton to south of Willow Grove Road in Chemung Township with the right lane closed. And the approaches to the Hudson River, Right now, apparently they've cleared that issue that was on the affecting the upper level of the GWB. Let's take a look at the 8095 approach if we could. Yeah, so you can see it's now moving slowly on the upper level on the right. So they've cleared the issue. Those are just residual delays. It'll start to pick up soon. It's about 35 minutes across the GWB right now. Not horrible. It's about 20 minutes at the Lincoln and only 10 at the Holland. Rutgers University's Board of Governors approved a $5.9 billion budget, hiking in-state tuition by 5% to nearly $15,000 for New Brunswick undergrads, with mandatory fees up 5% and housing up 6%. That's way above the rate of inflation, by the way. Out-of-state students also face a 6% increase for school, not just for housing, reaching $36,000 a year. The hikes exceeding the 2.4% inflation rate. Thank you, President Trump, for keeping that inflation nice and low. That huge hike keeps Rutgers among the most pricey schools in state for any schools in the country. President William Tate IV cited potential federal funding cuts as a factor. Don't believe him. He is full of crap when he says that. Sorry, but just saying it like it is. It has nothing to do with potential budget cuts. Those potential budget cuts came a year after they set the budget. So how do the potential budget cuts you didn't know about impact that hike? Head scratch. Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva said yesterday that his country will respond with reciprocity to President Trump's newly announced 50% tariff rate on his country's exports, citing a recently adopted Brazilian law that authorizes the government to take proportional countermeasures. Just to make you aware, Brazil is the largest country in South America. We're the most prosperous country on the planet. Brazil's exports to the United States are about the only thing that they do export a lot of that we use is copper. Other than that, everything else is kind of, if they don't want to export some of their candies, okay, big deal. Trump announced yesterday the U.S. would impose the tariff of the U.S. on them on imports from Brazil starting August 1st, partly in retaliation for the ongoing prosecution of the country's former president, Jair Bolsonaro. It is total corruption, way more than the Biden administration was doing in terms of lawfare against Trump. The current guy is literally imprisoning. He has gone to the point of imprisoning Jair Bolsonaro. It is criminal what they've done. They're socialists. They're radicals. Trump said in a letter that this new tariff, a massive jump from the 10% rate the U.S. had imposed on imports from Brazil in early April, is also a response to the very unfair trade relationship between the two countries. The letter to Da Silva followed nearly 24 others that Trump has recently sent to other world leaders dictating steep new tariff rates on the goods that they sell to the U.S. Now, when this was first mentioned in the beginning of the year, the stock market went crazy. Everybody said it would cause inflation. Well, months later, it's proven no inflation happened. In fact, the economy's on fire. We've actually made tens of billions of dollars on those tariff hikes. Our country has actually made money by taxing the other countries. We haven't seen the dramatic increases in costs that everyone predicted, doom and gloom, Republicans and Democrats alike, by the way. Maybe we can admit finally Trump was right. CIA Director John Ratcliffe has made a criminal referral of former CIA Director arch-leftist John Brennan to the FBI, accusing him of lying to Congress. The Bureau is also scrutinizing former FBI Director James Comey, you see on the far right there, for his role in the now debunked Russiagate investigation. Sources describe the FBI's view of the duo's interactions in the Russia hoax as a conspiracy, which could open up a wide range of potential prosecutorial options. The problem is they would have to be tried in the very liberal D.C. federal district, where they are likely to end up with a leftist judge who would tip the case in favor of the defendants, the two you see on your screen. The Russiagate lie literally kneecapped President Trump for most of his first term, and that forced many in Congress, including Republicans, to distance themselves from him because they didn't want to be associated with a guy who might have gone down criminally, they thought, preventing President Trump from getting much of his agenda passed first time around. 7:58 in 2016, a Trump supporter posted on what was then Twitter that supporters of Hillary Clinton could vote for her by text message or social media post. It was obviously a joke, unless you're that stupid. Well, Hillary supporters likely never even saw that because they're to the left and this guy's to the right. He used to just post his stuff. He had right-wing followers. People on the left didn't even follow him. Nonetheless, in spite of the constitutional freedom of speech that we have, Douglas Mackey, the guy on your screen, was charged by the Biden administration's Justice Department after Trump got out of office and Biden got in. They decided to seek retribution, and they went and charged him with conspiracy to influence the election with Hillary Clinton. So here, Biden is elected, Trump is out of office, but they decided, you know what you did 7 years ago? We don't like that. And they went after him and literally bankrupt him, and they put him in jail. They brought the charges in a very liberal federal court in Brooklyn, even though Mackey is from Florida. So why would you bring the charges in Brooklyn? Maybe because Florida's federal courts are a little more conservative and Brooklyn's federal courts are communist. They're freaking communist. So because he tweeted one thing one time, a message that was a joke, saying, hey, all you Republicans, you vote in person. You Democrats vote by text. That was a joke. Because he tweeted that in 2016, they won the case against him. Literally, he was sentenced to 7 months in federal prison over a joke tweet he made one time. Can you imagine if the Justice Department poured through every tweet you ever sent and decided to charge you with things you said 7 years ago? Destroyed his life. A chunk of his life he'll never get back. Finally, the Second U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals in Manhattan ordered the ultra-left-wing lower court, acquit this guy, you idiots. And the Second Circuit Court is considered a liberal court itself. So that tells you how liberal the Brooklyn court was. The United Federation of Teachers, or UFT, the nation's largest teachers union, has officially gone off the rails to the left. In the last 24 hours, they endorsed the socialist candidate for mayor of New York, Zoran Mandani, who's come out in favor of giving up City Hall's control of the school system, something that mayors in New York have fought for decades to get control of. He says, no, give it up to a school district of elected local leftists. They've created an agenda that includes declaring the need to educate students against the Trump administration. You're a union. Your job is to educate students. You're not supposed to form political opinion. And they've severed ties with the Anti-Defamation League when it comes to the education of students about Israel's history and the Holocaust. So literally, the murder of millions of Jews just 80 years ago would no longer be taught, or would be taught with a slant that might sound like, oh, the Jews brought it on themselves. This isn't just a little dangerous, folks. This is severely dangerous. This is what socialist propagandists in third world countries do. Every parent needs to wake up and watch what is being taught in public schools now more than ever. Remember, those who do not know history are doomed to repeat it. And Fairfield police are monitoring a large bear that was spotted near Henning Drive. You got to check this out. One of our people sent this in. Police are working in coordination with the New Jersey Department of Fish and Game. No immediate threat, but residents are urged, do not approach the bear. Duh. Keep pets inside and maintain a safe distance, at least 100 yards. If you encounter the bear, keep calm. Speak firmly if it starts to come towards you. Appear larger than the bear and back away slowly. If you run, it will chase you. It is 8:01 right now, and it is still happening. More attacks on Italian Americans, this time resurfaced social media from a candidate for New York City mayor. We'll speak with the head of the Italian American One Voice Coalition about it. And we'll take your calls at 888-658-0234. You're watching On New Jersey Mornings. We'll be right back. Good morning. It is 8:02, 71 degrees, Thursday, July 10th, 2025. Welcome back to On New Jersey Mornings. I'm Ken Rosato, taking calls at 888-658-0234. Cloudy with a stray shower or thunderstorm today. The storms are more likely in the southern part of the state, and they could even be kind of strong there. Highs in the low 80s. Straight to meteorologist Mike Favetta with a full check of the Garden State forecast. Good morning, Mike.
But not severe, and that's a change, Ken. Not expecting severe weather today, because we've had our fair share over the last few days. Flooding, lightning, winds in excess of 58 miles per hour. Had a 58 mile per hour gust last night over at the Cape May Lewis Ferry Terminal that was measured right at the dock. So really gusty winds after those storms ripped through. You see them there, that bright patch of red working through southern New Jersey. That's what gave even places just across the Delaware some flash flooding last night. We'll loop one more time. You see those bright shades of red working through southern New Jersey. That's now gone. Just have a few light sprinkles working their way through Morris County and western Passaic County this morning. That's what live radar is picking up at 8:03 this morning. Some of those light showers coming down, spreading across the state. This is the kind of general vibe today. It's going to be a little wet, a little cloudy, and much cooler too. Low 70s. That's a nice change. 70 right now on the green in Morristown, 75 in Newark, and 75 down toward Cape May. So seeing a little bit of a improvement in terms of the heat. And I think that cooler feel will stick around much through this afternoon. 7 degrees cooler than this time yesterday in Morristown, 4 degrees cooler in Newark. And with the dew point or the temperature where the air is saturated, anytime this number is in the 60s, it's humid, but not terribly oppressive like it has been when that number gets into the 70s. So the last few hours, seeing those light showers develop, and this will be the case through the morning. Some light rains on and off, and then a little bit of clearing this afternoon. Bright and beautiful sunshine later today? Maybe. Hard pressed. I think we'll mostly stay cloudy into the end of the day as long as that breeze is very light and it prevents any big movement of the air. I think overall it's just going to be a grayer day as opposed to yesterday. But tomorrow, sunshine returns and looks very pleasant. The futurecast shows those light sprinkles coming through this afternoon. Maybe some showers later on today, working through Ocean and Monmouth County, and then another round up in the northern part of the state, working through Essex and Hudson County later on this evening. But as far as tomorrow morning, beyond a little bit of a cloudy start, look at how it clears out by the afternoon. Lots of sun expected for your Friday afternoon. That could help develop a passing thunderstorm. You see, they're very isolated in nature, and most of them stay to the north and west. Now, Saturday starts off a little cloudy, but clears out quickly, and all that clear sky throughout the day will feel great and look great, especially for any outdoor plans. Beach, pool weather, what have you, no problem there. A few early morning clouds on Sunday morning, also break for some afternoon sun, and we are dry and rain free. So it looks really pretty this weekend and not as sticky or as hot and humid as it has been going into the next few days. So a little touch of morning fog tomorrow, clears out by the afternoon. Saturday and Sunday, gorgeous going into the upcoming weekend. We'll take the dry weather, especially when it falls on a weekend. At least it's not rain. We'll take another check of the forecast, including the hot weather that returns by Tuesday of next week. Those details coming up on the 7-day forecast, Ken, in a few minutes.
All right. Thank you so much, Mike. It is 67 degrees in Trenton, 72 degrees in the northern part of the state. Take a look at this traffic cam that our Director Pam, wonderful Director Pam, found. It's I-287 at Cedarbrook Road in Bridgewater Township. See a bit of traffic and a breakdown there in the middle lane there. And we are told that okay, local lanes, it says westbound south of exit 21, I-70 at Bedminster Township. All lanes are open, but it says it's just there's a breakdown. So just beware of that as you go on by. Other issues that we have to talk about right now, including roving repairs, and that's on Route 206. Southbound from south of Atzian Lake Park entrance in Hammondtown to Willow Grove Road in Chemung Township. The right lane is closed right now for that. The approaches to the Hudson River, we have about a 10-minute crossover time at the Holland. It's 15 at the Lincoln, and the upper and lower levels of the GWB right now. You can see the lower level on the left much better than the upper. Right now, we're told it's 20 minutes on the lower level and 30 on the upper. A resurfaced photo of New York City mayoral candidate Zohran Mamdani giving an obscene gesture to a statue of Christopher Columbus in Astoria, Queens, has now ignited a firestorm of controversy, particularly among the city's nearly million Italian Americans. The image showing a gloved hand raising a middle finger toward the statue of the Italian explorer has drawn sharp criticism from community leaders who see it, of course, as a direct insult. You don't see that as a compliment. With the mayoral race heating up ahead of November's general election, where Mamdani faces off against Mayor Eric Adams, Republican Curtis Sliwa, and possibly former Governor Andrew Cuomo, who is of Italian descent, this incident could shift the dynamics of an already tight race. Joining us now is Andre Domino, president of the Italian American One Voice Coalition, to discuss the outrage and what it means for the Italian American community and the election. Andre, good morning. Let's start again with the photo itself. Why is the image of Zohran Mamdani gesturing toward the Christopher Columbus statue cause such outrage among Italian Americans in New York City now? He was running for assembly then when this came up. Why is it taking 5 years for this to become outrage?
Well, because it just shows what his position is. You know, he wants to take the statue down. In fact, in that same post of that photo of the obscene gesture, he put the quote, "take it down." So you can imagine now if this guy becomes mayor for Italian Americans, what does that mean? Columbus Circle goes away. That iconic statue goes away. Well, you know, it's just unbelievable that we've got to face this kind of stuff.
And Columbus Avenue will probably just be called Ninth Avenue at that point, because that is the extension of Ninth Avenue. So it'll likely just be called Ninth Avenue. Now, you've said this is the latest affront to the city's Italian American community. Can you put the incident in context? What other challenges or slights has the community faced regarding the legacy of Christopher Columbus?
Yeah, no, we've heard it all the time. There's people that have protested against the statue, wanted to take the statue, that iconic statue, down. Also, they want to eliminate Columbus Day, when, of course, with the largest, the best parade around the country, the Columbus Day Parade in New York, we support the people that run that parade, and it's an important parade for us, but an important holiday for us is Columbus Day, because, Columbus Day was a day that was put up as a federal holiday, but also as an apology or an atonement to the way that Italian Americans were treated back generations ago. And we want to preserve that legacy that our ancestors went through with that apology for Columbus Day. And of course, if a guy like Mondani gets in, what's going to happen? It's going to be the end of that in New York.
Right, exactly. When people say, well, why don't you Italians just choose somebody else as your guy? We didn't pick Christopher Columbus. It was the then president who picked Christopher Columbus, the president of the United States at the time, who picked Christopher Columbus and appointed him our official representative in the United States. Okay, so it wasn't us. And now that is what is, as you mentioned, atonement for the sins of the U.S., because we had Italian Americans lynched in the South, one of the biggest, or was the biggest lynching in our history of at any one time of American citizens, and also some Italian citizens who were here legally awaiting trial. They were acquitted at a trial for the murder of a sheriff's deputy, and yet, in spite of the acquittal, I should say, the Italians who were being tried were brought out in a public square and lynched. They were hung. So this was the federal government's way of saying it should never have happened. We're very sorry. We'll create a day in honor of Italian Americans, because that was part of our first migration in the 1880s, mostly from like Sicily and Naples. And this is the thanks. Italian Americans represent millions and millions of Americans, hardworking Americans, and their thanks is, screw you. And it's just disgusting. Columbus's legacy, they've debated for years, nonsensically, because nobody alive today has encountered prejudice from him. Some praise his role, of course, in connecting the continents. Some criticize his actions. But if you go to the Dominican, they praise him. They have a Columbus Day there where they celebrate. So how do you respond to those who argue the gesture reflects a broader rejection of Columbus's historical narrative?
Well, listen, this all goes back to a self-declared anarchist and Marxist that hated this country and wanted to destroy it, Howard Zinn. When he wrote his textbook, quote unquote, about America, and he started with Columbus by putting these falsehoods about Columbus that have now been perpetrated throughout generations, children being brainwashed about these falsehoods about Columbus. Just like you said, we can't look back at those times and compare them to these times. But what he said about Columbus is just not true. And he also attacked the founding fathers. So what do we have here? Mondani is just a disciple of Howard Zinn, continuing these attacks, not just on Columbus, but on America. And, candidly, as far as Italian Americans, we need to stick together on this one. And we can't let this guy get elected and have him attack our heritage the way that he's talking about it in the past.
Yeah, I mean, the whole idea that Columbus, first of all, Columbus personally never had any slaves. He did not. It was the people who he dropped off in the Dominican Republic who did take some slaves back, but it was not for the purpose of slavery. It was the purpose of sending a message to the people on the island who had been giving gold. Good reason, I acknowledge, but nonetheless, they had been giving gold to the sailors to bring back to the king of what country? Not Italy. Spain. The king and queen of Spain wanted the gold. That was the epicenter. The Holy Roman Empire they were the Holy Roman emperors, the king of Spain. That was where they demanded the gold, not Rome. So that's part of the issue. So if you want, go after the Spaniards. Go pick on them if you want. Don't get on our case. Nonetheless, also the reference to the locals in the Dominican Republic as savages gets misinterpreted. I have a master's degree in languages. Sauvage in French comes from salvatus in Latin, which means saved. It's for people who had not been baptized Christians who then got baptized. They were called savages. That includes white Europeans. If they came upon a town of people who had not been baptized, they would baptize them. They were called sauvage, meaning now saved. Your soul is saved because you've been baptized. That's where the word comes from. Today, it means like lesser people, but that's not what the use of the word was in his time. I'm sorry. It's
Uh,
ignorance of history and language that drives me insane. Now,
yeah,
Zoran
well,
Mamdani, go ahead. I'm sorry, please.
no,
I'm
what you're doing,
usurping this. I apologize.
no problem. What you're doing is using facts. Amazing, isn't that you're using facts, and people just don't do that. And in fact, we even have a person of indigenous heritage himself, who Rafael Ortiz, who actually wrote 4 books defending Columbus based on the facts of those times. So you're 100% right. People just don't look at the facts. They've just been brainwashed.
Well, Democratic primary was held last month. Of course, they selected by a large chunk, by 10 points,
Uh,
Zoran Mamdani. He's the front runner in the mayoral race right now. 41% support him. How do you think the controversy could impact his campaign, especially in a city with 1 million Italian Americans?
Well, we really hope that Italian Americans really think about this and just think of what the consequences would be of electing this person. Forgetting all the other stuff. But we don't get involved with politics, our organization, but we get involved with is defending Italian American heritage and culture. And we've got a situation here where if this guy gets elected, he's going to squash the parade, Columbus Day statues, and every reference to Columbus. He said it plainly. He did this. He only became a citizen in 2018. And 2 years later, he was already attacking the underpinnings of culture in this country by the person who united the continents and an iconic symbol to Italian Americans. So people just cannot, if for nothing else, just for Italian Americans, should not vote for this guy just to protect our heritage and culture.
Well, Andre Domino, I'm with you. You are the president of the Italian American One Voice Coalition. We always love having you on. Come back anytime, and thank you for joining us this morning.
Good to be with you again, Ken. Thank you very much.
Always a pleasure, Andre. Have a good day, sir. When we come back, the tragic and historic flooding in Texas has left scores of innocent people, including many children, dead. And right on cue, Democrats try to blame President Trump and the Republicans. We'll talk to former mainstream media news anchor and current host of the Keeping It Real newsletter and podcast, Dave Bondi, about it. Cloudy with a stray shower or thunderstorm today. The storms are more likely in the southern part of the state. They could even be a little stronger there. Highs in the low 80s. Meteorologist Mike Favetta comes back with a full Garden State forecast, and we'll take calls at 888-658-0234. You're watching ONNJ Mornings. Don't go away. Welcome back to ONNJ Mornings. I'm Ken Rosato, 816, taking calls at 888-658-0234. Cloudy with a stray shower or thunderstorm today. The storms are more likely in the southern part of the state. Highs in the low 80s. Straight to meteorologist Mike Favetta with the full Garden State forecast. Morning, Mike.
Morning, Ken. A little bit of a cloudy and dreary start, but the rain will give way to some sunshine by tomorrow. So it's our only wet and kind of cloudy and gray day this week before the sun returns for a pretty brilliant Friday. Temperatures today responding to that sun, lack of sun, with temperatures holding in the low 80s. It'll feel much better. And this is actually a few degrees cooler than average, even through Princeton and Trenton, low 80s for you. Maybe with a break of sun toward the end of the day by Clinton and Flemington there in Hunterdon County, could get up into the mid 80s. But beyond that, even the heat index at this hour, not all that impressive, low to mid 70s after almost 2 inches of rain fell down toward LBI. This little stripe of yellow here through the Pine Barrens, more than 2 inches of rain. But in northern New Jersey, didn't pick up all that much in some isolated spots. So there were certainly the storms that gave downpours in certain areas. Other areas stayed quite dry. But into this afternoon, I think just with these little showers that are starting to develop off to our west, they give us some wet weather, sprinkles through the afternoon. For that reason, the UV index is only at a 7, which is high. Not all that much sun developing through this afternoon, especially after the big downpours that came through last night, prompting some tornado warnings in southern Ocean County. Even the dew points, or the temperature where the air is saturated, not terribly humid as compared to days past. By tomorrow afternoon, a 69-degree dew point in Newark, humid, but not oppressively humid. And with the low 70s elsewhere in the state, yeah, it'll feel warm and muggy this weekend, but not the oppressive heat and humidity that we've endured over the last few days with those kind of successive heat waves. Now, the futurecast today keeps some clouds around, of course, with a few showers into this evening. Any downpours likely taking place across southern New Jersey, but not severe, unlike we've seen the last few days. The weather tomorrow clears out nicely. Look at the clearing that occurs out up by the beaches with a little bit of a front pushing through, and some of the storms and clouds stay off to our west, which will be nice. And that easterly breeze keeping it cool as well for Saturday morning with an early morning marine layer, back to the sunshine by the afternoon. So highs warming into the upper 80s and low 90s by then. Next chance of rain with some steady showers is on Monday, and then Tuesday and Wednesday clears out nicely, but it also brings back some heat that will take us into the middle of next week. We could see another stretch of 90-degree plus days next week, but the weekend looks great. Highs in the upper 80s tomorrow and for Sunday. I think by Saturday it will feel quite nice. With the early morning sprinkles and clouds, it'll look a little gray to start, but the late morning into the early afternoon clears out lovely. So get that spot on the sand nice and early, and you'll be one of the first to enjoy the nice clearing as those clouds part for you for a beautiful afternoon each day out toward the beaches. We'll tell you more about it with the 7-day forecast, Ken. It's coming up in a few minutes.
I'm just picturing you as Moses with the staff making the sea part. I just, you know, it is.
I'm more New Testament
Mike
guy.
is.
I'm a more New Age guy, maybe more like Simpsons, where the clouds clear out. That's kind of my generation, if you will.
I got you, but I'm old. Well, I can't. Moses was a contemporary of mine. But what can I tell you? All right, sir. We'll check back. Thank you very much, Mike. 68 degrees in Trenton right now. 74 degrees in the northern part of the state, and we do have some other traffic to talk about. We have a disabled vehicle on I-280 westbound at exit 15, which is Route 21 in Newark. The right lane is closed. We also want to let you know, because this is a holiday week and a lot of people are traveling, that a lot of the airport parking, the big parking lots at JFK, LaGuardia, and Newark, also down in Philadelphia, they're all filling. Right now, they're all at 90% capacity or above. And that could change by the time you drive to the airport. So you are advised to make sure you have in fact, they're telling me now that JFK's lots are 98% occupied. So make sure you have reserved parking at one of the satellite lots near the airport. You're probably not going to get into the airport. Then make sure they have shuttle service that gets you in. So you don't want to show up and not be able to park your car and miss your flight. We also have the approaches to the Hudson River. Right now, the Holland Tunnel, we're told, is 10 minutes, 15 minutes at the Lincoln. Take a look at the GWB upper and lower levels. We now have a disabled tractor trailer on the GWB upper level eastbound ramp, and that is causing a little bit of a slowdown. So the upper level's on the right, and you could see that causing that. So the breakdown is just beyond that point as these trucks pass. The lower level is flowing beautifully. So if you got to get into Manhattan, your best bet is lower level of the GWB right now. It is 8:21. The tragic and historic flooding in Texas left scores of innocent people, including many children, dead. And right on cue, Democrats immediately tried to blame President Trump. Former mainstream media news anchor and current host of the Keeping It Real newsletter and podcast with news they don't want you to know, Dave Bondi, joins us this morning with more. Good morning, Dave.
Yeah, it's great to see you, sir. This is a perfect example of narratives and the media jumping on what certain Democrats have said and just going with it. And it just made me furious the minute I saw it. There's so many examples that I have for you. And this is what I wanted to talk about, because this is one of the reasons why I walked away from the mainstream media. It's just shameful. It really is.
Yeah, and it's right on cue. They don't even let the bodies get found of these children before they immediately started to use it as propaganda to get people riled up against the administration, saying that it was because of cuts to the National Weather Service's funding that people weren't notified. Two things. Number one, and you could get into the detail on this, they actually increased staffing at the Weather Service where that was from 2 people to 5 people. So there were plenty of people on duty. Number two, this occurred at 1:30 in the morning. So many people were asleep. So you could have given all the alerts you want. They were sound asleep. That's part of the reason so many people died. If it happened at 2 in the afternoon, many would have probably survived. Am I correct?
Absolutely. And I took some notes here. Flash flood watch was issued Beforehand, a flash flood warning was issued several hours before the major flooding had occurred. The office was more than double staffed. They had 5 people instead of 2. Flash flood emergency was issued several hours after the warning. Yeah, they were fully staffed, prepared for the event. This type of flooding, also, we haven't heard this in the media. This type of flooding on that river has happened several times over the last 100 years. 1998, 1987, 1978, 1935. So you don't hear a lot of this, and several lawmakers made it immediately political, and the media automatically went with it. Not all media, but many of them on the Sunday morning shows. That's all you were seeing. So it goes back to what we talked about several weeks ago when I was on with you. Many hate this administration so much they'll make anything political, even children who've lost their lives. It's sad.
George Stephanopoulos at ABC
Yes.
News, leftist political hack. It's been proven. That's why, hey, Georgie, I know George. Hey, Georgie, you just lost $1 million, you asshole. You want to lose another $1 million? He's a jackass. I mean, you're talking about chill. George, you got 2 daughters of your own. Imagine if somebody did this to you. Stop being such a hate-filled Clintonian leftist hack. And that's what George is. And I hope this finds its way to him. He and I know each other. He's about that tall. And all he is full of vitriol for the right. He despises the current president. So this is why he was among the first to get on his show, use that as a platform to attack the right. And that is typical George Stephanopoulos MO. Disgusting.
I challenge him to come on with you tomorrow morning during his commercial breaks on Good Morning America. I would love to see you and him.
Yeah, he wouldn't dare. He wouldn't dare
No,
because
he
he
wouldn't.
thinks who he is, even though he doesn't realize that friends of mine who are execs at ABC have said this contract that they just signed with him last year, they only signed because they didn't want to appear that they were acquiescing to the president. But this wasn't a full 4-year. This was a 2-year deal, and he's done. I don't know if he realizes it yet. He's done when this is up because Bob Iger, who's a very good, and I'm not speaking, by the way, I'm not speaking from my time working there. I'm speaking with just reading it in the paper that anyone else could read. Bob Iger is a very smart businessman. He's not going to deal with losing $15 million, I'm sure. Just again, this is perception. I don't know anything from the inside here. I'm just saying that from what I've read in the papers, Bob Iger knows what he's doing and would not deal. He's not going to deal with his company losing millions of dollars for the likes of a little twerp like Stephanopoulos who can't get any ratings anymore on a Sunday morning.
Wow, Ken Rosato keeping it real. I love it this morning. You're on fire.
Is what it is, right? We don't lie here.
And there is an issue with this flooding. Like, should there have been? There's an issue. Should there have been sirens? Should there have been the warning systems, or what procedures were done? And that's fair to ask on a local level, a state level, but just immediately jumping on that. And I have relatives who are still tuned in only the mainstream media, and they ask me, they're like, "Oh, is this true? Is the administration at fault?" So there's still people out here that are buying it. That are in it's just sad though that puts it out there, and I hold this up as an example of the bias and that it's still out there, and the networks are continuing to do it, and if they continue to do this, they're going to continue to lose audience. It's just it's mesmerizing.
I think, you know what, Dave? I think the damage is done with mainstream media. That's why they're all shutting down one after another. Didn't your former news operation shut down when you were at your local station?
Yeah, when I started working there, it was a local NBC affiliate. In 2015, they have about 60 employees. Right now, they have about 9 employees. They canceled all but 1 newscast, so they're on their last legs right now.
Crazy. And I remember my GM at my last station in New York City. The letters are the first 3 of the alphabet, and I don't have to say which. I worked there for 20 years, and I remember the GM 6, 7 years ago. His name was Dave too. Very nice man. I remember him and he and I used to have a lot of deep conversations about the business. And I remember him saying there will come a point in about 10 years, and this he knew from then. In about 10 years, he said this city, instead of having 5 or 6 local newscasts, will have about 3. And then it'll be quickly 2. He said, you can't sustain this because the audience is gone. And that's in the biggest market in the United States and the highest paying market in the world. Can't sustain it anymore. Because why? Because you lie enough, people are going to say, to hell with you. I'm not going to watch you anymore. And I always love to say it's a sin of omission, not a sin of commission. When they're divvying up the stories in the morning, here, they're at the assignment desk, they got all the pages. They're like, that's a right-wing radical story. We're not going to do it. It's a right-wing radical story. We're not, that's a Fox story. We're not going to do that. No, idiot. Half your audience wants one story, half the audience wants another. You can't do all the news from your leftist side. They look at anyone who's even centrist as a right-wing hack. And that's part of the problem. That's why they're now going out of business. Good. That's the deal. That's why we exist.
Exactly. And if the Trump administration or someone at the Weather Service did something wrong, if it wasn't fully staffed, I'm happy to call them out on it. I don't care, Republican, Democrat, if you're doing something wrong, that's the media's job, to hold the powerful accountable. It's not to hold the left accountable or the right. It's just the powerful. And I think journalists maybe forgot that. And I take a lot of criticism sometimes when I will criticize the Trump administration for something that they do wrong, but I criticize all sides and bring it out. And that's what I think people need. When I was a news anchor on the air, no one knew if I was more conservative or more, left or right. And I admit I'm more conservative, but I'm still willing to criticize and put facts out that make the administration look bad if it's true.
And I'm with you. In fact, I'm still ready to pounce on them about Epstein. I think everybody on the right is, because, right, we could do a whole story on that, a whole show on that. We don't know anything, but the fact is, when you get a Pam Bondi saying, I have this stack on my desk, implicit in that is a stack of people who are involved in criminality. And then all of a sudden say, oh, nobody was involved in criminality. No. Yeah. You go back and you look at all the statements made up to this point, statements that even
Bongino?
The deputy director of the FBI. Bongino, thank you. Hello, brain fart. Bongino even made comments before he became the deputy director of the FBI. And he said that there's so much evidence. Well, where's all this evidence? Where is it? Oh, no, it was a suicide. It was a suicide. There was a minute of missing tape. Come on. They're just begging for a conspiracy. So, yeah, I'm with you. We will pounce. Our job is to be journalists. And unfortunately, these people have given up on it. They think that their job is to have a cause, to rally a moral right. And they are indoctrinated by the left in these J schools. And they come out all with the same leftist socialist mindset and ideal until they wake up and realize they've been fooled by the left. Dave Bondi, news they don't want you to know. Dave Bondi is editor of the Keeping It Real newsletter, host of the Keeping It Real podcast. You can see him on Substack and a whole bunch of other social media, but you prefer Substack, right? Because they leave you alone. So that's a good
thing. They leave me alone. I can own my audience, and I've had no issues with them so far.
You got to tell me how to get on and do that. You got to help me figure it out. I can't. I'm old, so you and I will talk about it. I appreciate you always, my friend.
I turned 50 recently. I'm getting up there.
You're still a kid to me. Please say hi to your beautiful wife and your kids, and thank you for joining us always this morning. Come back again soon, Dave.
Thank you, sir.
You bet. Dave's a good old friend of mine. Good man. It is 8:31 right now. The phone lines are open. We'll take your calls. 888-658-0234. Meteorologist Mike Favetta says cloudy, stray shower or thunderstorm. Storms are more likely in the southern part of the state, and they can be a little heavier there than in the north. Highs in the low 80s. Full Garden State forecast in a moment. We're coming right back.
Hi, I'm Jeanette Hoffman, host of Energy Matters. Join me every night at 6 p.m. where we're discussing energy affordability, challenges, and solutions with stakeholders and elected officials. Join me weekdays at 6 p.m. on Energy Matters on ONNJ.
Very good morning to you. It is Thursday, July 10th, 2025. Our temperature is 74 degrees at 8:32. I'm Ken Rosato. Welcome back to ONNJ Mornings. Cloudy, a stray shower or thunderstorm. Storms are more likely in the southern part of the state. Highs in the low 80s. Meteorologist Mike Favetta with a detailed Garden State forecast. Good morning, Mike.
Good morning, Ken. We've got a pretty decent day ahead, but tomorrow brings back more sunshine and the weekend. Looks beautiful, especially with the beautiful temperatures, the amount of sun that returns. It's a little cloudy and cool today, not as hot, and could see some passing showers. Some of those light rains already working through northern New Jersey, but big time sun on the way for tomorrow. And then the weekend weather looks fantastic. Satellite picture showing all the bright shades of white. These are the clouds and the higher cloud tops helping those showers to form across northern New Jersey. The rest of the state kind of covered in gray right now. So through this afternoon, with the temperatures at the beaches looking a little bit cooler than they have been the last few days, there's also a good chance of rain throughout the beaches today. Not looking fantastic even through Glassboro and Camden. Kind of a gray day all around, but that does keep the heat down, as is the case through this afternoon. The forecast heat index not climbing out of the 80s today. We're back in the low and mid 90s tomorrow, but anytime it gets higher than 95 for an extended period of time, that's where a heat advisory is issued. We don't see that going in through this weekend or even by Monday, with temperatures in check, feeling just like they should, and not the worst heat that we've had. Certainly no records being set today like back in 93 at 105. Sunset 8:29 this evening. So here are these light showers working through northeastern corner of the state right now. They've kind of migrated across the northern half of New Jersey over the last hour and now working through Bergen County as we speak. But those showers will be wrapping up soon. And then with water temperatures warming nicely through the end of the day. Look at that water temperature of 77 degrees in Sandy Hook. Nice and warm there. Cooler in Atlantic City, some upwelling taking place. That is where the gusty breezes blow off the top layer of warm water, and it's replaced by the upwelling colder water below. That's happening today, but still, I think you'll enjoy a little bit of a milder day down toward the beaches tomorrow and for the weekend. A moderate risk of rip currents at all New Jersey beaches today. Always important to swim in the lifeguarded zones. And with a gustier breeze tomorrow, I think we could see that stay at the moderate level. So we're still riding along this front throughout the day tomorrow, but we'll see a little bit more clearing through the afternoon. Saturday looks great. We're dry, starting cloudy, turning sunny by the afternoon, and then Sunday also clears out too. I think with this front approaching from the west, our next chance for some rain arrives on Monday. So beyond that, it's a great looking weekend. Just some haze and early morning fog tomorrow, clears out by the end of the day. Saturday and Sunday, nice and sunny, clearing for this weekend with some rain returning for Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Warms back up into the low 90s. Same for you at the shore. Cloudy day today, kind of wet, and then tomorrow clears out with sunshine on Saturday and Sunday. A very pretty looking weekend. There are those morning showers by Monday, and then Tuesday and Wednesday offers highs that are quite average, back into the upper 80s. So a very summery feel here in New Jersey for the next few days, with today being pretty much our last wet day this week, and then we're back to sunshine tomorrow and lasts through the weekend, Ken.
All right. Thank you very much, sir. We appreciate you. Excuse me for looking down. I'm looking down at the traffic. And we just got an update as we are speaking. So let's go to that if we can. Thank you, Mike. It is currently 72 degrees at 8:36. And we do have a bit of construction on I-80 westbound. This is in the area. Actually, we have two different ones, Pam, our director. So the one I'm looking at here is westbound west of exit 25, Route 206 in Mount Olive. But we have another one. The one that we're looking at on the screen is construction on I-80 westbound between exit 55, which is Totowa, and exit 53, which is Route 46 in Wayne. The right shoulder is closed, and that's going to be the case until 3 this afternoon, causing the delay that you see on your screen right there. So just be aware of that if you're headed onto I-80 in that area, the Totowa area. We also have an update. Again, folks who are headed to the area airports, you're being told to make sure if you're driving to the area airports that you have a reserved parking space, because all of the major airports in the region right now are at 95% or above capacity in their parking lots. So reserve a parking space at one of the satellite lots we're being told to pass on to you. The Hudson River crossings right now, it's 10 minutes at the Hudson, at the Holland, 15 minutes at the Lincoln. And we take a look at the GWB right now. We have a disabled tractor trailer causing things to get a little bit slow in the upper level, which is on the right. That is the upper level making your way into Manhattan is now about 25 minutes. It's only 15 to 20, the lower level on your left. 8:37, President Trump will attend the FIFA Club World Cup final at MetLife Stadium this Sunday. He confirmed at a cabinet meeting. Trump leads a White House task force preparing for the 2026 FIFA World Cup with Vice President J.D. Vance and Andrew Giuliani, son of former New York City Mayor Rudy Giuliani, in key roles. The U.S. will host most of the 2026 tournament. And the quarterfinals are this month. And next year, of course, the big show we've been talking about, World Cup Finals 2026. On New Jersey's Laura Jones spoke with Governor Phil Murphy about what he is calling a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity.
Governor, MetLife Stadium, it is going to be one of the biggest stages in the world in 2026. Can you talk about what hosting the World Cup means for New Jersey, both economically and culturally?
It's a big deal, Laura. This is about as big as it gets in sports, or frankly, period. Our guess is that, by the way, we're co-hosts with New York City, and they've been great partners. Our guess is 1 to 2 million visitors into the region, $3 to $4 billion of economic impact, 14,000 permanent jobs created, 8 matches in MetLife Stadium, including what will be the most watched event in human history, the World Cup final on July 19th, 2026. And the tournament will have in total 104 matches, which means there'll be 96 that aren't in MetLife. And that's why the fan fests, our big one will be at Liberty State Park, will be so important. That'll have a capacity of 45,000, 22 big screens, and the backdrop will be Ellis Island, Statue of Liberty, the Manhattan skyline. It doesn't get any better than all of the above.
Well, so it makes sense why you've called this a once-in-a-generation opportunity. So as you get ready, what should residents and local businesses expect as the state gets ready for something this big?
Yeah, they're getting a taste of it right now because we're hosting 9 matches in the first ever FIFA Global Club World Cup. We've already had 5 really successful first rounds. We have a quarterfinal on Saturday, 2 semis next Tuesday and Wednesday, and the final on July 13th, Sunday. So we're getting a taste of that. Incredible fan enthusiasm, a real emphasis on safety and security, an emphasis on transportation that is good, a good experience, the in-stadium experience, the impact on small businesses, hotels, restaurants. We're seeing a taste of it right now in terms of what it will be like next year. And so far, so good. This tournament has been a home run success, as next year's will be as well.
Now, one of the other articles I read on this, you said, the measures of successes, there are 3 things: safety, the experience of getting to and from the stadium, and also the fan experience inside. So how do you feel New Jersey is on track for that?
I'm knocking on wood. So far, so good. The first 5 matches have been phenomenal. We've averaged 35 to 40,000 fans. If you listen to the fans, you would think that there were 400,000 in the stadium, I have to say. But you'll see now from the quarterfinal on, we'll be more in the 70 to 75,000 fans for each one of the remaining 4. So we're laser focused on those 3 dimensions: safety, transportation, in-stadium fan experience. I'm incredibly optimistic that those all 3 will continue to be in great shape.
And, when you talk about legacy, it's always a big question when you're hosting a global event. So are there certain long-term benefits or projects that you hope the World Cup leaves behind in New Jersey, whether it's a youth program, facility upgrades, that will really last beyond that final whistle?
Yeah, it's a great question. And frankly, it hits, and I think the biggest reason you want to be playing a big role in these tournaments, whether it's this year's or certainly next year's, and that is the legacy. The last time the U.S. hosted the World Cup, 1994, that was the birth of Major League Soccer. And look at how successful that is today. But I think, Laura, it is exactly as you suggested. The little boy or girl who never considered kicking a ball actually doing so. The field that we're able to build in an underserved community that didn't have one before. Maybe there are professional, benefits that come out of this. But the legacy, what we'll measure 10, 20, 30 years from now, I think, frankly, that's the even bigger story, and nowhere more so than New Jersey and New York City, which is a hotbed of soccer passion and legacy from the very beginning of this sport. I think it'll be transformational.
Yeah, you yourself, you're a big soccer fan. I read that you played when you were younger.
Not well, but I did.
Well, just one final note on a more personal note. What are you most excited to showcase to that global stage that we're going to have that's going to be watching New Jersey?
I mean, Jersey's character, attitude, our people, our diversity, our passion, and I might add, alongside our brothers and sisters in New York City, the Trans Hudson partnership is a real one, and it's working really well. But showing off New Jersey to the world, all 9.5 million members of our Jersey family, with a huge point of pride. That opportunity just doesn't come along, particularly to host the final this year, as well as, of course, the World Cup final next year. That's a once in, not even a generational, that's a once in a forever experience. And we're gonna be proud to show off the great state of New Jersey.
New Jersey's right at the epicenter. Governor Phil Murphy, thank you for taking the time to talk to us.
Great to see you, Laura. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
And Governor Murphy signed a new law to study how AI-powered data centers are driving up energy costs. The Board of Public Utilities will analyze the impact on homeowners over the next 20 years and explore taxing data centers to ease the burden. To offset the hikes, the BPU approved a $60 billion reduction for July and August, with additional relief of $100 for all and $150 for lower income families this year, which of course middle income families are going to have to pay the difference to offset. 844, Rutgers University's Board of Governors approved a $5.9 billion budget, hiking in-state tuition by 5%, one of the highest in the country for in-state tuitions, nearly $15,000 for New Brunswick undergrads. Mandatory fees went up 5%. Housing went up 6%. Out-of-state students face a 6% increase, reaching $36,000. The hikes, exceeding the 2.4% inflation rate by double, keep Rutgers among the nation's priciest for in-state tuition. President William Tate IV cited potential federal funding cuts as a factor, although that is a lie, because those funding cuts, first of all, are only possible. Secondly, they weren't announced until after this budget was announced. This budget came out at the end of last year, so there were no potential budget cuts from the federal government at that point. Sorry, President. 8:45. It is currently 74 degrees. When we come back, many libraries across the country are closing, but one in our area is actually expanding. Find out what the Maplewood Public Library is doing right. Cloudy with a stray shower or thunderstorm today. The storms are more likely in the southern part of the state, where they could be a little stronger. Highs in the low 80s. Meteorologist Mike Favetta returns with your full Garden State forecast, and we'll take calls at 888-658-0234. You're watching On New Jersey Mornings. Don't go away. Welcome back to On New Jersey Mornings. I'm Ken Rosato at 846, taking calls at 888-658-0234. Clouds, a stray shower or thunderstorm, highs in the low 80s. Meteorologist Mike Favetta with the Garden State forecast. Good morning, Mike.
Good morning, Ken. It must be the last forecast because Rocco just poked his head in like, hey, is it time to eat yet? Time to eat yet? Yeah. So somebody's waiting for his breakfast. We'll get to it, though.
Yes.
It's going to be a beautiful start to the day. A little rainy, a little gray, but we could use some wet weather, right? Got to make those tomatoes nice and big and juicy and plump after all the heat that comes in this weekend. Not terribly hot, the weather this weekend, but also not a lot of rain today. So a nice balance after so many of the extremes that we've had the last few days, the excessive heat, the record heat last week, and then this week, those big flooding rains across some parts of southern New Jersey with those gusty winds. Now, air quality today, not so great because the air is pretty stagnant, and so it's unhealthy for sensitive groups, especially in the northeastern section of New Jersey, but it's that southerly breeze that helps to clear out the air across southern New Jersey today. So we'll see that air quality improve by tomorrow, as the heat isn't all that impressive going into the middle of the month, especially toward the last week of July. You see the northeastern section of the state and really of the Northeast, rather a little bit above average in terms of heat and slightly above average in terms of rainfall. So the weather kind of balances itself out over the next few days. We have the wet weather today. We're back to sunshine tomorrow. A little foggy, a little hazy, but by Saturday and Sunday, it turns beautiful with temperatures well into the low and mid 80s. And with that mix of sun and clouds throughout the weekend, it stays dry. Our next chance of rain on Monday clears out for a hot Tuesday and Wednesday. The shore points also pleasant after a little bit of a foggy start tomorrow, back to sunshine with haze in the afternoon. And yeah, there'll be some humidity around at the shore this weekend, but still a pleasant mix of clouds and sun, even throughout the end of the weekend. Monday, next chance for some rain, and then by Tuesday and Wednesday, sunshine returns. So a decent looking forecast here after what seemed like a few days of rain. I think we'll make it through a little bit of wet weather today and then enjoy the bounties of July here across New Jersey for the next few days, tomorrow, Saturday, and Sunday.
I want to go to your house. I'm hearing not only Rocco, but Nino. I hear the baby
Yeah.
now too. So
Yeah. Well, he's reading his pasta book. He loves his pasta book, learn about the farfalle, the macaroni. They all have a little story in there. So that's what Nona's reading to him right now. I should close the door, but it's a little hot in here.
no, don't close the door. That's the best part of the show. By the way, just a little tidbit. The difference between shaped pastas and
Mm,
long flat pastas,
yeah.
as you probably very well know, Southern Italy makes its pasta with semolina and water,
Uh-huh.
no eggs. Usually, sometimes eggs, but usually not.
Right.
Northern Italy does eggs with 00 flour. Those are the pastas that are like the fettuccine, the wider ones, the flat noodles like lasagna. That's made with egg and soft flour as opposed to semolina
Mm.
flour in the south. So you need to use the semolina flour to make the little farfalle and things like that because the egg pasta will not hold that shape; it'll collapse.
And it
There
really
you
is
go.
hard to find pastina these days because
Yes,
unless you look for an American producer that gets their wheat from
Barilla.
Canada, it's really hard. You have to go to like an
Yep.
artisanal store in New Jersey in order to get it and pay through the nose, but it's worth it.
I find Barilla still, which is Italy's largest producer, but I think they have an American plant.
Yeah.
They still make their own pastina, but the original Ronzoni pastina that we used to get, I don't know why did they discontinue it? Does it make any sense?
I have thoughts about Ronzoni, and we're trying to get advertisers here, so I'm not going to do that. But thoughts. There's a reason why it's 79 cents a box on sale.
We'll talk. We'll talk. All right. Thank you, Mike. We are pasta aficionados. I literally made pasta 8 hours ago, so I'm going to go have that
Oh,
as a leftover lunch. I made a matriciana sauce, by the way, just so you know.
oh wow!
Yummy. Yummy. Got some guanciale. All right, we'll talk later, Mike. Have a good day, sir.
All right,
Kiss the
you too.
baby. We'll check you out. 8:50 right now, 73 degrees. The only real thing that we have to talk about, we have a crash on I-80 westbound west of exit 61, Elmwood Park with the right shoulder closed right now. Then the approaches to the Hudson River right now. We got 10 minutes across the Hudson at the Holland Tunnel. It's about 15 at the Lincoln, we're told, but at the GWB, they still have an issue. They keep having issues this morning, although you're not seeing it yet. We're told there is a disabled tractor trailer on the upper level. So that'll be the right set of lanes that are empty right now. It will take about 15 minutes for that to build up and you'll see traffic there, but we'll be going off the air at that point. So if you're headed into the city by the GWB, make sure you take the lower level. The summer marks a bold new chapter for one of New Jersey's most beloved public institutions. After more than a decade of planning, design, and community input, the Maplewood Memorial Library has reopened its doors now as the first LEED or LEED Gold certified library in all of New Jersey. At a time when libraries across the country are facing budget cuts and political pushback, this $24 million very wise investment is a powerful vote of confidence in civic spaces and public access to knowledge. Joining us now is Sarah Lester, director of the Maplewood Memorial Library, to talk about the vision behind the rebuild, the sustainability features, and what this space now means for the community. Sarah, thanks for joining us this morning. I have a whole bunch of friends who live in Maplewood in your library. I've been watching as the progress has been made. I'm so excited for you. Welcome.
Well, thank you for having me, Ken.
You bet. Congratulations on the reopening. How does it feel finally to be able to welcome people back into this beautiful space?
It's been absolutely amazing. And from, so as you said, so much planning went into this. And with support from the township, with the state grant that we received an $8.3 million grant from the state of New Jersey, and we received private funding for this. And on Saturday, we opened our doors and 1,100 people were at the grand opening with 4,000 people walking through our doors on Saturday. So to say that it was a success is really just putting it mildly. People were really ready for this library to open.
I'm sorry to cut you off there. You have my mouth agape. That is, you know what? That warms the heart because it brings back the memories of my youth and how much of a mind shaping my local library up in New Rochelle, New York was. I loved my library. I loved my bookmobile. The smell of the books, everything about it excited me to read. So Maplewood's always been a reading town, much like a Morristown or a
Mhm.
Montclair. But this new library is also climate resilient. Tell about how Hurricane Sandy and Ida shaped the design and what a smart idea this was.
So in 2012, Hurricane Sandy hit, New Jersey very hard, and in Maplewood, 90% of the town was without power. But just the luck of it, the library had power, and the whole town came into the library. And this was a dated infrastructure. The library was from 1955. We literally had probably 10 outlets in the entire library. But people came in to get warm, to charge their devices, and to be together in a space to find information. And I think we realized at that point that the library that we had was not sufficient for our really just, it wasn't adequate for our town. And at that point, we really started planning for what this town really needed, and thinking of the future, what kind of resiliency design factors were needed in this library. So we now have an all electric building. 58. We have solar panels that cover the entire roof. 58% of the energy use is offset by the solar panels. We have native plantings around the library. We have green roofs to help with water runoff. I could go on. So I think it's, it was a pretty devastating thing that Sandy hit our state so hard, but it was actually really helpful in planning for the future and making sure generations to come would have access to a public infrastructure that would be there for them.
And Sarah, so it's basically the building itself is an education for kids and adults in the community, which is wonderful. And the library is the epicenter of the community. I mean, a lot of people don't realize Maplewood's only a 1 mile square little community, and to have that right in the middle to serve the community is so rich. I had a friend of mine who was a librarian for years in Westchester County, where I was raised, who used to
Mhm.
say, "Show me a great library, and I'll show you the most educated group of kids in the region." And a library can make that difference in the future of the kids because it's when you make it a place they want to go, then they'll go and get educated as opposed to hanging out and getting in trouble. It's so phenomenal that you did that. Now, there's a lot of buzz about the new teen room, maker space, and the flexible gathering spaces. So, talk about the kinds of community activities you're hoping to inspire.
So I think that what you said about having inspired spaces is really important for all people, and to make sure there's equitable access to information for everyone in the community was really important. We've created. I've never seen a teen space like this, and I've worked at the New York Public Library, I've worked at San Francisco Public Library, I've worked in other libraries in New Jersey. We have created the most beautiful teen space I think that there is in this country. And it really is a space that kind of elevates. I think it just elevates thought, and we have a middle school right across the street. So after school, we typically get between 70 and 90 students come into the library straight from school, and they now have a space that is inspiring and welcoming, and that they deserve. We also have 10 collaborative and quiet rooms that people can reserve for group study and quiet study. We sit on the edge of an Olmsted designed park that is absolutely beautiful. The second floor is all glass, and so you really feel like the park comes into the library. So I think every space in this library is absolutely beautiful, but also just encourages thought, encourages gathering, encourages conversation. And so that a building can do this is pretty remarkable, but we've seen it, from opening day with the thousands of people that came in our doors. And then every day since, people walk in this library and you see you just see smiles come across their faces. They are
Mm.
so happy to have like a public building in their town that is this magnificent.
You're doing it right. You're doing it right, and it inspires young people, and it, I'm sure, overjoys older people. What a great thing to have. I hope that it continues to grow. I hope you're going to have to beg them to expand the building in a few years because so many people keep coming. I'm just so excited for you, and Maplewood's a great place to live too. If people want to visit or get involved, what's the best way and what's a website?
So we're at www.maplewoodlibrary.org. We're at 51 Baker Street, right, it's a short walk to the train. If you want to take the train here, since we're a sustainable library, encourage, walking, biking, training. And we're right at the edge of Maplewood Village. So we're very, very easy to visit.
Sarah Lester, director of the Maplewood Memorial Library. I'm so excited for you. Thank you so much for coming on. Come on again, please, and let us know how things are going.
Thank you so much.
All right. Have a great day. 58. Meteorologist Mike Favetta says cloudy with a stray shower or thunderstorm today. Storms are more likely in the southern part of the state. They could be a little heavier there. Not horrible, though. Highs low 80s. And that is on New Jersey Mornings for your Thursday, July 10th, 2025. I'm Ken Rosato. You could stream us at ONNJ.com, Roku, Fire TV, News on Samsung TV Plus, Apple TV, YouTube, Facebook, and X, Rumble, and Twitch, too. Go to twitch.tv/on New Jersey. See you on Monday morning.